Hey, I'm Chris. This is MMA for you. I'm going to be doing my predictions for World Series of Fighting 24, Fitch versus Okami, which happens on October 17th on NBC Sports. This card looks pretty good, actually. I like Fitch Okami, even though they're both past their prime. Ivanov versus Mehmen's a good fight. Magalhaes versus Hamill, decent fight. Nick Newell's fighting. It's always fun to see him fight. Bibulatov versus Frelow. That's a good flyweight fight. The prelims are actually pretty strong. Rick Glenn is fighting. Alexandre Capital is fighting. Saul Almeida. UFC vets Patrick Walsh and Colton Smith are fighting. Yeah, Strikeforce vet and Lewis Taylor. Bellator vet and Justin Torrey. So, this is not a bad card, actually. Let's get started. In the main event, John Fitch fights Yushin Thunder Okami. Okami has a 30-9 record, 10 wins by KO or TKO, 5 wins by sub. He also has 5 losses by KO or TKO. He's 34 years old. He's 6'2", so he'd be the taller fighter. He last fought against David Branch on November of 2014. So it'll be close to a year layoff for him. And if I'm not mistaken, this is his first cut to 170. I'm very skeptical about this cut. One thing about Okami, he was never a small middleweight. You don't look at Okami and think, oh man, he's totally undersized for the division. Actually, he was pretty big for the weight class. When he fought Tim Bosch, Anderson, among others. It's not a case of him getting outsized that cost him fights. If anything, he won fights with his size advantage. The heart of Okami's game, quite honestly, he's something of a grinder. Unless he is against inferior competition, then he'll really go for the finish. His stand-up's actually not too bad offensively. He uses straight punches. His boxing's not too bad. Defensively, could use some work, especially these days. His wrestling is good, both offensively and defensively. He has some good takedown defense, good offensive takedowns as well. He's good in the clinch. He has a really good top control. However, his chin isn't that good. John Fitch, 26-7 record with 1 draw and 1 no contest. 5 wins by KO or TKO, 5 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by KO or TKO and 3 losses by submission. 37 years old. He's 6 foot, so he'd be a shorter fighter. He last fought, I believe it's Husmar Payares, back in December of 2014, and he got leg locked. He is also a grinder with good wrestling. His stand-up average at best. He has really good top control, and when he does utilize ground and pound, it's the stay busy type. It's low power, high volume, so you don't get a ref stand up. And his chin, especially these days, is not what it used to be. I think with Okami, his recent losses are to David Branch, who's a middleweight who's just really put everything together at this point. Striking, wrestling, and jiu-jitsu. Branch is a really solid fighter at this point. And then before that, he lost to Jacare. He's beaten like Hector Lombard, Alan Belcher. John Fitch, his losses are to like Husmar Payares, Josh Berkman. So, nothing to truly be ashamed about. But it doesn't seem like he can beat the solid fighters anymore as well as he used to. And then even when he fought did he fight Alfaya or something like that? And he gave him more of a fight than, and he's like a lower level fighter, and he gave him quite a fight. So, it seems like Fitch might even be struggling against some of the lower end of the division at this point too. Fitch is the older fighter. Both of them, I'm not big on their chins, but I feel that Fitch over time has, because he has a style, I think he's just taking more damage, just over a longer period of time. He wants a George St. Pierre fight. I remember he got rocked against Mike Pierce. Johnny Hendricks knocked him out. What other fights have I seen? Yeah, it's just he gets touched up here and there, rocked a couple times, dropped and whatnot. Not to say Okami lately hasn't been dropped. It seems like he gets dropped at least once per fight against like good opposition. But I think that I am very, I guess, skeptical or just like wary of picking Okami, but I will pick him because it's his first cut to 170. I don't know if he's going to be just absolutely drained. I think he'll be the stronger fighter. I think he has the better stand-up. And if he can get on top of Fitch, I think he can actually get some pretty good ground and pound, wear him down. I'm actually going to go with a finish here. I'll go Yushin Okami, KO or TKO. Maybe ground and pound finish at this point. Tough to call because they're both just past their primes. They're both Okami has 39 fights, and Fitch has 35. So they both have a lot of fights. Have taken a lot of damage over their career. I just tend to think that Fitch has taken just a little more damage than Okami at this point throughout their careers. But Yushin Okami by KO or TKO. Next fight after that for the World Series of Fighting heavyweight title, we have Blagoi Ivanov. There's a way to pronounce it. I always say Blagoi. So versus Derrick Mehmen. Mehmen, 19-6 record, 11 wins by KO or TKO, 2 wins by sub. That's his 2 losses by submission. 30 years old. He'll be the taller fighter at 6'4". Trains out of ATT. He's actually a pretty solid wrestler, and his stand-up's good too. He's actually the one that he knocked out Hollis Gracie, and Hollis just he did a Ric Flair flop and got finished. So it was one of the more it was one of the funnier finishes I've ever seen, and Mehmen was the guy that knocked Hollis out. Blagoi Ivanov, 12-1 record with 1 no contest, 4 wins by KO or TKO, 6 wins by sub, 28 years old. He's going to be a shorter fighter at 5'11", and he is the World Series of Fighting heavyweight champion, beating Marcellino Rama. He finished him too. I think it was by knockout. I'm not too sure. His stand-up's that very Sambo style, where it's kind of reckless, it's kind of loopy, but it's somewhat pretty accurate actually. He's real heavy-handed, and he's got a good chin. Rama was actually touching him up pretty good, and Ivanov managed to get some good counters on him. Ivanov does have a Sambo base. I will say this. There are previous fights where he's shown himself to be a bit green, going for head and arm throws that didn't work very well. He actually got mounted by LeVar Johnson, I believe, going for a head and arm throw. And also, when he went for the head and arm throw against Volkov, he got his back taken and choked out. So, there's certain aspects, and then Ivanov will also go for leg locks that maybe he shouldn't actually go for and whatnot. Did that once again against LeVar Johnson. Ended up beating him, but it's just he put himself in bad positions because of it. With that said, both have the common opponent in Marcellino Rama. Rama knocked out Mehmen and lost to Ivanov. Like I said, that besides that, Memen's a good fighter, but I think Ivanov's chin can hold steady here. And I think he can touch Memen's chin as well. On the ground, once again, it's good that Ivanov, he didn't look so green in his last fight, so that was a really good sign for Ivanov. So, because, Ivanov, will give up his back, for example. And a guy like Mehmen might be able to take it. I think Mehmen might have a pretty hard time taking down Ivanov. So I'm going to go with Blagoi Ivanov by KO or TKO. Next fight after that, Matt the Hammer Hamill fights Vinny Magalhaes. I think the H is a Y, right? So yes. So that's how I'm going to say it. So Magalhaes. 12-7 record with 1 no contest. 2 wins by KO or TKO. 10 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by KO or TKO. 31 years old. He's the taller fighter actually at 6'3", where Hamill is 6'2". Magalhaes is on a 2-fight win streak. Most recently beating Jason Brills back in Titan. But that was back in September of 2014. So there's something of a layoff for him. Magalhaes trains out of Syndicate these days. Good gym. I believe like Mike Pyle trains there. I know some women fighters like Mata Ferry and Jamie Moyle train there. He is a top level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner. He is really good off his back. He's super flexible. He's great on top. You know, he'll pass the dominant positions really well. Has a good guillotine and front choke series. His stand-up actually isn't too bad. Against Brills, he has with Vinny, he actually has a good head kick. He actually won a fight in M1. He won the title with a third or fourth round head kick. And against Brills, he head kicked him, knocked him down, and got the guillotine. The problem with Magalhaes is his chin just isn't very good. Anthony Parash knocked him out. Of course, Bader knocked him out, and that's his 2 knockouts. But when you see him get hit, I mean, he just doesn't look like one that reacts well to getting hit. Matt Hamill, 11-5 record, 6 wins by KO or TKO, 4 wins by decision. He has another one too by DQ. He also has 2 losses by KO or TKO. I believe he's the only guy to beat John Jones, actually. But Hamill is 39 years old. He's a little shorter at 6'2". He last fought in October 2013, and I want to say that was against Thiago Silva back in the UFC, and he looked pretty bad in that fight. He's only won 1 of his last 4 fights. At his best, he's a good wrestler, not a great wrestler. He shoots from the outside a lot. He's really strong, though. Stand-up's average. He has some power in his strikes, though. His clinch striking's pretty good. He has good uppercuts from the clinch. His stand-up defense isn't that great. And his cardio at this point, he's 39 years old, been through a good amount of fights. He has some pretty questionable cardio as well. I'm going to go Vinny Magalhaes to win this one by submission. Either he's going to drop him and submit him, or maybe dive into a guillotine or something like that. I think the only problem with Vinny is his chin. Otherwise, I think his stand-up's probably better, and he's much better on the ground too. So Vinny Magalhaes by submission. Next fight with that, Tom Marcellino fights notorious Nick Newell. Nick Newell, 12-1 record, 2 wins by KO or TKO, 8 wins by sub, 29 years old. He's notable because he's missing a part of his left arm. It's just a little past his elbow. It's like a stub. So he still has an elbow there. It's just like there's a stub like right afterwards. He's actually a pretty strong wrestler because he's missing one arm. He actually gets some really good penetration with his takedowns. His Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills are good. When he gets like a leg, like a limb, or a neck, it's really hard to peel it off too, because he'll get that like part of an arm on it, and you can't like peel it off. And so he actually has, like, once he has your neck, I mean, you're like done. And if he has your leg, you're like done too, because like he has a different type of leverage because of the way his arm is like. And his stand-up's actually not that bad. I mean, this guy would be awesome with like both arms. He's very good with just one full arm, you know. He actually has pretty decent kicks, actually. Pretty good head kick. I believe he has a head kick knockout. Tom Marcellino, 7-3 record, 4 wins by submission, 3 wins by decision, 31 years old. So I watched 2 fights of his. Pretty recent ones too. One of them, he choked out a guy in the 3rd round. And the other one, it was in World Series of Fighting. I believe it was against like Brenton Hansen, where he got like flying kneed. I gotta say, with Marcellino, there isn't anything bad with him, but he came off terribly average, in a sense. Like, he has a decent left hook. His stand-up's not that bad. He does leave his chin pretty high, so I'm not big on that. And his grappling looked pretty good. With that said, I gotta go with Nick Newell to be able to take this fight to the ground and get the sub. So I'm gonna go with Nick Newell by submission. And final fight of the main card, Magomed Bibulatov fights Donavon Frelow for the inaugural flyweight title. Frelow, 5-0, undefeated record, 4 wins by sub, 1 win by decision. Trains out of one fight team. He actually has a really strong guillotine. A lot of his wins actually are by guillotine. And his overall grappling game is solid. Bibulatov, 9-0, undefeated record, 1 win by KO, 4 wins by sub. 27 years old, trains out of MMA Factory with the likes of Taylor Lapalus. Fights in DFC. Good prospect, actually, in DFC. Carl Amasu, Christian Mpumbu. I want to say that MMA Factory used to be Crossfight. I'm not 100% sure, though. Because I know a lot of these guys used to train in Crossfight, and from the stats I saw, it said MMA Factory, so I'm not too sure how that's working out these days. Anyways, so the video I saw of Bibulatov, I saw 2 of his most previous fights. Stand-up's good, but he's really unorthodox. He'll use a lot of spinning strikes. One of his go-to strikes is actually a spinning back kick, and he will do the spinning back fist as well, among other just like unorthodox strikes. His offensive takedown ability is pretty good too. If he gets a clinch, he really tries for those takedowns. With that said, Bibulatov's a fun prospect. I like who he trains with. I like his style of fighting. It's really fun to watch. So I think he can keep the fight standing, and I think he'll do better in the stand-up. So I'll go with Magomed Bibulatov by decision. Okay, on to the prelims. Rick Glenn fights Adam Ward. So Ward, 15-7 record, 4 wins by KO TKO, 5 wins by sub. That's those 2 losses by submission. Rick Glenn, 15-3 record with 1 draw, 8 wins by KO TKO, 5 wins by sub. That's those 2 losses by submission. He's 26 years old, training out of Rufus Sport. He is a former World Series of Fighting featherweight champion. I like his stand-up game. It's good. He has a really good ground and pound game as well. Really good. I'd still call Rick Glenn a prospect at this point. I think he's a really solid prospect. He beat Karakanian. I think he ground and pounded him. And then he lost to Lance Palmer. But, he's a really good fighter. I got to go Rick Glenn to win this one. I'll go by KO or TKO. Next right after that, Marcos Capital Alexandre Campos de Almeida. So I'll just call him Alexandre Capital. Fights Saul Almeida. Saul Almeida, 18-5 record, 1 win by TKO, 4 wins by sub. 26 years old on a 5-fight win streak. He's got some good grappling skills. Capital, 16-5 record, 2 wins by KO TKO, 12 wins by sub. That's those 2 losses by submission. 27 years old on a 3-fight win streak. He is a jungle fight veteran. He has some strong Brazilian jiu-jitsu skills. He's really good off his back. But from the video I've seen from him, I didn't really like his stand-up. With that said, though, I think this fight's going to happen in the ground, and I think Alexandre Capital, it's Alexandre Almeida, is what they're going to call him. So I'll go with Alexandre Almeida to win. By decision, actually. Next right after that, Rodrigo Almeida fights Bruce Boyington. So I did actually watch some Rodrigo Almeida fights. He has a 12-2 record, 2 wins by KO TKO, 5 wins by sub, and 2 losses by sub. He's 29 years old on a 7-fight win streak. I found his stand-up to be quite sloppy, to be perfectly honest with you. I didn't really like what I saw there. His grappling game, though, was solid. Boyington, 10-8 record, 7 wins by KO TKO, 1 win by sub. He also has 7 losses by sub, and he's 36 years old. I'm going to go with Rodrigo Almeida to be able to take the fight to the ground and get the submission. Next fight I thought Washington Nunes de Silva fights Colton Smith. Didn't watch any video of Nunes de Silva. The only ones I can find were like amateur fights. So all I know is a 5-1 record, 2 wins by sub, 3 wins by decision, and 32 years old. Colton Smith, he has a 5-4 record, 1 win by TKO, 2 wins by sub, 2 losses by KO TKO, and 2 losses by sub. 28 years old. He's on a 2-fight win streak. He is an Ultimate Fighter winner, and pretty much with Colton Smith, his style of fighting would be grindy. I mean, the guy's just, he's kind of a notorious grinder. With that said, I just don't know anything about Washington Nunes de Silva. I do know Colton Smith. I do know that, like, stand-up is just average at best. He's a grinder, though. Takes her back actually pretty well. So I'll go with Colton Smith by decision. So I thought Rex Harris fights Justin Torrey. Harris, 7-2 record, 4 wins by KO TKO, 3 wins by sub. He is a finisher, 32 years old, on a 3-fight win streak. Justin Torrey, 7-1 record, 6 wins by KO TKO, 1 win by decision. Last fought in Bellator against Brendan Ward, where he got knocked out, actually, back in September of 2013. I'll go with Justin Torrey to win this one. I don't know by how, though. Next fight after that, Nicolai Salchow fights Louise Handguns Taylor. I actually did not watch any video of Salchow, so I know he has a 5-0 undefeated record, 2 wins by KO TKO, 2 wins by sub. He's 31 years old. Louise Taylor, 11-3 record, 5 wins by KO TKO, 5 wins by sub, and 2 losses by sub. He's on a 4-fight win streak. You know, Taylor's losses are, like, to not be too bad competition. It was like Nate Moore, decent enough fighter, Joe Riggs, and Perry Filkins. You know, so and he's beaten like he most recently beat Brian Houston. So with that said, I'm going with Louise Taylor to win that one. And finally, Tyler King fights Patrick Walsh. Tyler King, 9-3 record, 3 wins by KO TKO, 4 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by KO TKO. 35 years old, and he's getting much taller at 6'5". Patrick Walsh, 6-2 record, 2 wins by KO TKO, 1 win by sub. 26 years old. He's only 5'11". His wrestling game's actually pretty good. He's kind of a brawler in his stand-up, though. But he's really game, but he's really green. But he always goes after his opponent. This one's actually tough for me to call. So I think Patrick Walsh actually has some pretty raw potential in him. But Tyler King, he's been on... And he doesn't have a lot of fights, but he's been on the radar here and there, like, for a while. He is a much older fighter, but he's a taller fighter. So it's really hard for me to call this fight. Man, this one's really hard for me to call, actually, because, like I said, I actually thought that Patrick Walsh is really raw, something, you know, but could turn out to be something. Tyler King, I mean, he's 35 years old at this point. Jeez, I don't know. You know what? I was going to go with Tyler King, but I like Patrick Walsh to be a bit relentless here. Try to go for the takedown and whatnot and just be really game. So I'm going to go with Patrick Walsh to win this by decision. Not super confident of this pick, though. Okay, let's recap. The main card, I have Yushin Okami over John Fitch. Blagoi Ivanov over Derrick Mehmen. Vinny Magalhaes beating Matt Hamill. Newell beating Tom Marcellino. And Magomed Bibulatov over Donavon Frelow. On the prelims, I have Rick Glenn beating Adam Ward. Alexandre Almeida beating Saul Almeida. Rodrigo Almeida over Bruce Boyington. Colton Smith over Washington Nunes de Silva. Justin Torrey over Rex Harris. Louise Taylor over Nicolai Salchow. and wait, I switched my pick here. So Patrick Walsh beating Tyler King. So that's it for my predictions for World Series of Fighting 24, Fitch versus Okami. If you have any comments, just leave them below. And that's it for MMA for you. Thank you guys very much.